appointed by the select board, and we are uncompensated volunteers. So sometimes, quite often, as a matter of fact, someone decides they don't want to be reappointed, or we have a vacancy that exists, and the select board has to appoint someone else to fill the vacancy. Until that happens, we really won't know who's going to be on the Board of Health starting July 1st. So we don't want to get something as important to this into a discussion before we know who is going to be members of the Board of Health for at least the next year. So that's how this works. So we have a list of speakers. The list of speakers is being held by Karen, the department head. Those who actually emailed her and asked for time to speak will be given time to do so. When you speak, you must go to the podium and you must activate the microphone. There's a little button that you push. It says push on it. And you need to push that button to activate the microphone if it's not already lit up green. When you get the microphone working, then you need to identify yourself by name and also give us any affiliation that you have that you represent during this forum in terms of what you're going to be saying. The time, because we have a lot of speakers present, is going to be limited, as usual in most of the public meetings, to 3 minutes. And there will be a timer kept. You will be given a warning when the time is almost up. And then when 3 minutes are up, you'll be told again that your time has ended. If we can't get everybody in, I think we can if we hold it to 3 minutes. But if anyone exceeds the 3-minute time period, it's likely that someone else will have to give up some of their time to speak. We will be adjourning exactly at 8:30 p.m. This meeting will not run past that time. So that's the procedure. There may be some questions. If you have questions, you can direct them to the speakers, but only if we have enough time. If the Board of Health members have questions for any of the speakers, again, we will use those if we have adequate time to get through everyone's comments. Okay? If anyone has any questions or needs clarification, I'd be happy to help. No questions? Okay. Karen, does that pretty much cover everything?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do also have, but I'm not going to show it tonight, a copy of the state regulation pertaining to pesticides, including SGAR, and it does contain a preemption clause. But since we're not going to act on anything tonight except to hear from all of you, I will read that at the meeting when we actually are engaged in trying to decide on how to proceed with this particular issue. At that point, I'll explain what the Board of Health can and cannot do. We have to follow state law. We have no choice. Also, because we're a Board of Health, we have to pretty much center our attention on anything that actually impacts the public health of our residents. So whatever we do is going to have to be judged as being the best possible solution for the issue that's before us that will least impact the public health of our residents. So I understand, that a lot of people here are concerned about raptors and owls and hawks. And yes, there is a connection because they help to control rodents. But we have to look at all the ways to control rodents. And we will go through that, I guess, at the meeting in July when we discuss all of our options. Clear? Okay. So that's what's going to happen tonight. So this is rodent control and the use of second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides, also known as SGRs. They act by actually interfering with bleeding in the rodents that ingest the bait, and the blood doesn't clot, and eventually, after several days, they die. So that's what happens to them. We're now going to actually go ahead with the information that people want to share with us. So Karen, if you could call them by name.
Sure. All right, first speaker tonight will be Will Fitzgerald.
Looks like the green light's on. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Chairman Potvin, Vice Chair Reed. Good to see you all. Good evening. My name is Will Fitzgerald. I'm a Plymouth resident and founder of Rescue Plymouth Wildlife. Before moving to Plymouth in 2017, I volunteered with several conservation groups, which allowed me to witness how communities can develop effective strategies to coexist with charismatic wildlife. I've since been on the lookout for the right opportunity to make an impact in our town. I started Rescue Plymouth Wildlife to raise awareness about the unreasonable risks SGARs and other rodenticides pose to our environment, wildlife, pets, and people, and to work with the town to create a more sustainable solution. The use of SGARs on public property in Plymouth poses an acute risk to the health of local ecosystems without any data showing greater benefits to public health than widely available poison-free alternatives. Like many communities in the Commonwealth, Plymouth is grappling with increasing levels of rodent complaints despite the use of these poisons. Accordingly, we need a greater commitment to integrated pest management, which the town claims to follow in its approach to pest control. Rather than a ban, RPW's proposal provides basic safeguards for the use of SGARs only in situations presenting a significant risk to public health and requires documentation showing all viable poison-free alternatives have been exhausted prior to the deployment of these poisons. RPW and the co-signatories of the proposal encourage the Board of Health to recommend it to the Select Board and town meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, so if there's a question for the speaker, we still have a little time, so you can ask it, but you have to go up to the microphone to do so, please.
I just wanted to talk after.
Okay. Then we'll go ahead with the next. Oh, there is? Okay, go ahead. You'll have to go to.
Sure. So there are many alternatives available, but I guess the major big buckets to group them under are exclusion and mitigation or prevention. In the case of buildings, exclusion basically deals with sealing entry points, providing additional safeguards to ensure that rodents don't have a way to enter the structure. And then mitigation really comes down to waste management, removing the attractants that bring rodents to that structure in the first place, whether it's feed and whether it's garbage, food, trash, stray seed from your bird feeder. There are all sorts of things that folks can do without resorting to poisons that can prevent the types of incursions into your personal space without resorting to poisons. So,
Okay, we better move on to the next speaker.
great.
There will be more information about that when we have the next meeting with the Board of Health sometime in July. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker will be Daniel Forand.
Daniel Forand, Pilgrim Pest Professionals. Just real quick recap of last time I was here. I have a bachelor's degree in natural resource studies with a minor in wildlife fisheries conservation. I've completed about 95% of my master's education in natural resource management with a concentration in wildlife. To the young lady in the back that asked the question about what other options are out there as part of an IPM plan, you probably saw the dog that was in here a little while ago. She's a puppy, so she was a little anxious and had to run outside to go to the bathroom. But that is part of our IPM plan, so she's actually going to be trained up. We're going to be bringing her out to customers' houses with permission of the town. We're also going to be, if we happen to be the town contractor, we would be using her as well. If I could just grab a couple things.
While you're doing that, I just want to clarify. IPM is Integrated Pest Management.
Correct.
Some people wouldn't know that.
Can I bring this up to the front just for as a
Yes.
visual? So that is what's been notoriously referred to as a bait box, but I refer to it as a rodent monitoring station. So can bait go inside that box? Absolutely. Can other things be used inside that box as an out of sight, out of mind? You don't want, it's a town owned properties. You don't want dead rats laying around outside. You don't want to see a rat in a trap. You want to reduce the impact of a trap and the bycatch that it can have. So inside that box, I'll open it up real quick. So,
I don't know if it'll be picked up in just a second.
So inside the box, you can put a snap trap like this. Inside the box, close it up. Rat can go in through the hole and end up getting trapped by the snap trap. As far as if it's used for bait, you see me using a key.
Excuse me, Dan, no one else watching will be able to hear you.
Sorry, go over there.
Yeah, if you could. Only, we can hear you here, but I would want the television audience to be able to hear you as well.
Okay. So, so inside the rodent monitoring station, you can put a trap inside of it. That's what one of these is. It fits right inside the box. So just because you see one of these does not mean that it has rodenticide in it or any kind of bait in it. You can quite literally just be rolling out a trapping program. So the box, if it is used with rodenticide, you need a special key to access it. The box is about 10 pounds. It's not something that a little young kid can pick up and start running around with it. Not something that a dog can pick up and start running around with it. You do need that special key to access. Sorry. So one of the alternatives that is out on the market, although I wouldn't recommend the use of it, is this CO2 cartridge rat trap. It's going to be loud, so if you have a problem with noise, you might want to block your ears. And this is one of the alternatives that's proposed to rodenticide. That was a lot less loud than what it was last time. But the rodent sticks its head up inside of this unit, and it ends up firing something in there, kills the rodent. Problem with this type of thing is bycatch, other animals. I'm afraid that little dog you saw stick its head up in there. But there are other options that we use as an IPM plan, whether it's trapping, exclusion that was mentioned by Will, all of the above, that we use that as part of our plan.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker?
Next speaker will be Lori Downs. Is Lori here? Okay.
Hi, I'm Lori Downs. I'm a resident in Plymouth. You wanted affiliations. I don't really have affiliations, but I do have a Bachelor of Science in Biology with a minor in Chemistry and Nuclear Medicine. So rat populations are most effectively controlled by removing their resources. Science proves this. A researcher, Dr. David E. Davis of Johns Hopkins University of Baltimore, was tasked with studying the ecology and behavior of Norway rats. His research indicated that when provided with food and shelter, rat populations will grow, but they will plateau when the resources can no longer support the population. Conversely, when the food and the shelter is removed, the population diminishes. He demonstrated this by monitoring a Baltimore neighborhood to compare a poisoning campaign versus a sanitation campaign. He monitored each neighborhood over a 3-year period. The rat population was substantially lower during the sanitation campaign. Dr. Davis's results demonstrate that rat populations can be managed through habitat modification more effectively than poisoning. It further points out that killing and removing the rats from a population only serves to make room for more rats by decreasing the competition. Poisoning campaigns are just an ineffective game of whack-a-mole. He didn't say that. I said that, just for the record. Integrated pest management practices, I believe, are the best solution based on this research. I've got credits here for this reading that I just did. I can hand it, I guess, to you, Karen, if you want to look up my sources. Or the main source was from the Pest Control Technology online magazine. It was entitled Strategies for Urban Rodent Control. And I also read Public Health Reports, Volume 67, Number 9 of September 1952, A Perspective on Rat Control by David E. Davis, Ph.D., and I also read the American Journal of Public Health, Volume 41, February of 1951, The Characteristics of Global Rat Populations by David E. Davis, Ph.D. Do you want to keep this? That's it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
I do want to just make one announcement, if I could, for the folks that are listening via Zoom. We are not monitoring the chat. So folks who are on Zoom, if you would like to speak, you could still have your 3 minutes, but you'll be at the end. So the folks that have already asked to speak, and I know there are some people who are on Zoom who are also on my list, so we'll go in the order that those names are received. But for those folks who are on Zoom who have not pre-registered to speak, we will go to you at the end of the speakers if you raise your hand, and I'll announce when that time's coming. So I just want to let folks know we are not monitoring the chat. Thank you. Okay, so next we will have Mike Medeiros. Is Mike here?
Hi, my name is Mike Medeiros with Griggs & Brown Pest Control. I've been providing pest management services in the town of Plymouth and the surrounding cities and towns for over 25 years. I've seen firsthand what a rodent infestation looks like, and it's not pretty. I've seen major infestations where rats and mice have gnawed their way into structures, entering commercial kitchens, restaurants, grocery stores, medical facilities, nursing homes, schools, and residential homes. I've seen the property damage they cause, the droppings in urine left behind in people's cupboards and residential homes where food and dishes are kept. I've seen the heartache and distress looks on people's faces when they come to the realization that they have a rodent infestation, to think that their loved ones, their children are being subjected to these horrific circumstances that could potentially lead to many different types of diseases, worrying that a rat may chew on some electrical wiring in the house and ignite a fire. I've seen the defeated look on restaurant owners' faces dealing with rodent infestations while trying their hardest to prevent the problems in the first place, but nothing seems to work. The rats and mice just keep coming. And with all that being said, I assure you that as responsible, trained, educated pest management professionals, we do not take secondary poisoning concerns lightly. We understand that concerns for wildlife and non-target animals being exposed to SGARs, but please understand that our industry has implemented an integrated approach specifically when it comes to our rodent treatment programs. Our treatment plan does not solely rely on SGARs. We educate our customers on how to make the environment surrounding their properties less desirable for rodents. We provide exclusion to prevent rodents from entering structures. We provide trapping along with our baiting programs, and our philosophy is to use the least amount of rodenticide necessary, limiting or excluding exterior bait altogether. The bottom line is that the use of rodenticide is the quickest and most effective treatment strategy to reduce the rodent population taking over our communities. When we talk about going out to someone's house and telling them, if you clean this up, reduce harborage, make the area less desirable, that's great. Is that effective? It is. Does it stop it immediately? It doesn't. It takes time. So when you've got a family that has rodents running through their kitchen, in their kids' bedrooms, dogs being bitten by rodents, spreading disease, damaging their property. I've seen brick walkways ripped right up. You try telling them, hey, listen, let's clean this up and let's wait a couple of months, it'll go away. They don't want to hear that. This needs to be taken care of. So yes, secondary poisoning may be a concern, but I would hope that the health and safety of the citizens in the town of Plymouth would be the primary concern and take precedence over all else. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Is there time remaining?
Yes, there's 40 seconds.
Okay. Does anyone wish to ask a question?
I have a question, and it's more to you. I thought, is the purpose of this forum on banning rodenticide?
You need to come up to the podium, please, if you could, so no one can hear you at home. So if you could come up to the podium, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Is the scope of this hearing banning rodenticide across the board, or is it just no longer using it on town property?
The point of this meeting is to find an appropriate method that will reduce, control the rodent population.
Everywhere.
Well, there are areas of town that have more of a problem than others. But because of the preemption law, it has to be restricted, but for us at least, to town-owned properties.
town property.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so next speaker would be Ted Brayton. Is Ted here? Okay.
If it's green, I don't have to hit a button, correct?
That is correct.
It's all right there. So Ted Brayton from Griggs and Brown Pest Control. I'm also the Public Policy Chair for the New England Pest Management Association. So I'm here representing the association that represents all the small pest management operators in the state. I just thought I would share with you an email of some facts and figures that I sent to Karen last month, so I don't have to recite them for you this evening. So, my thoughts on that, haven't changed. Just wanted to make sure that that was put in front of you, and I didn't want to take your time by reading that to you. I just have a few other thoughts to share with you on that. I hear a lot of information tonight speaking about the rats. I think they get the lion's share of the credit and the attention when we talk about the use of rodenticides. But I can pretty much assure you that we're using a lot more rodenticides on the house mouse, both in residential settings and businesses. And as far as exclusion goes, everything that I've heard tonight so far, I pretty much agree with as far as the importance of IPM and reducing food sources and exclusion, but none of them are perfect. I think about my first month on the job, I was treating a bakery, and they had rats, and they were coming through a hole in the basement floor, and we filled it in with concrete, and when I went back 3 weeks later, the rats had chewed a hole through the concrete slab floor again and re-entered the building. So exclusion is great, it's helpful, it can make a difference a lot of times, but it's not perfect. I also want to draw your attention to the current extended review that the EPA is doing of rodenticides. And what I wanted to note for you is that it has to comply with the Endangered Species Act, and I've seen initial drafts of this. And where it comes to the areas with endangered species, I can say that we do not have any in the New England area, let alone just Plymouth. And in the areas of the country where they do have the endangered species, the SGARs are not being banned. There's just additional restrictions and precautions that the EPA is looking at putting in addition to the label in those particular areas. I urge you to continue to rely on the scientists and career experts at both the Environmental Protection Agency and the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources. And I continue to allow the homeowners and business owners, 20 seconds, to decide what's the best way to protect their properties with their pest management companies with the approved materials, and say that any local bans on pesticides or rodenticides would only further the gap between the haves and the have-nots and bring us to a day where only the wealthy will be able to afford to live relatively pest-free lives.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Next speaker will be Joanne Burns.
Hi, my name is Joanne Burns. I'm a biologist, a state and federal permitted wildlife rehabilitator for 25 years. I'm a wildlife educator and author. I wrote the article Wild Again in the OCM for 7 years, and a member of SEMPA, Southeastern Massachusetts Pine Barrens Alliance. And most importantly, I have ducks and have had years of experience of dealing with rats. I know I have 5 minutes, so I'm going to go quick. SGARs are second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides. We've all heard this. They cause animal to bleed 3 to 7 days. It also kills the animal who eats the infected animal, or it's passed down through its mother's milk. I've had squirrels that had gotten it from their mother. Horrible, awful stories I don't even really have time to get into. As a wildlife rehabilitator, we can give them injectable vitamin K to help with coagulation or clotting, but you have to administer it right away, which rarely happens, and in my experience, the animals are never the same again. Brain damage, it's horrible to watch. You've heard all the statistics, 90% of all the raptors at Tufts and wildlife have rodenticides in their systems. And they don't really help. I heard what the gentleman said, and they don't, because after a couple of weeks, the rats come back. These poisons don't. They're called second generations for a reason, because the first generations, these rats became immune to. This poison will not solve our rat problem and just kill more in other wildlife species. The government made it illegal for people to buy these SGARs, except licensed pets companies can still acquire these poisons. However, as Will had pointed out to me, people can still get these SGARs on the market, but it's because state law said that they're allowed to sell out. So if anybody sees them on the shelves, you should call your Massachusetts or your federal agriculture department, or politely tell the store owner they may not know that these poisons aren't out there. The ones they do sell, bromethaline is a nerve agent, and I can't pronounce this one, cholecalciferol, which causes kidney and heart failure. These still all take 3 to 7 days to kill an animal. It's horrible to watch. It's disgusting. When what works, in my experience, someone had asked this question, I just killed 40 rats 2 days ago. What works in my experience, snap traps, electrical traps, and smart boxes are good secondary alternatives. They kill quickly and painlessly because rats are smart. Once that kill, it takes a couple of weeks for another rat to go near it again. You must be proactive. You must keep changing the foods to keep them interested. Also, you can only kill a few a night. The smart boxes hold 5 rats. They reproduce faster than we can get rid of them. Female rats can start having babies at 3 months old, have litters of 6 to 12 babies, and they can become pregnant again in 1 to 2 days after giving birth. A few rats are fine, but normal, not kept in check, their population explodes. We're in the middle of an environmental catastrophe. Okay, so I'm going to go to what works. I used dry ice was what I first used. You can get locally. You put the dry ice, you have to find the holes, and you put them inside, and then you block them up. The dry ice turns into CO2. The CO2 gets rid of the oxygen, and the animals asphyxiate within 2 minutes. That worked for 3 months. It's not something that's going to work forever, but I used a can of CO2 just the other night, and I killed 40 rats, and that lasts for a couple months. This is what they're doing in New York. This is what they're doing in other states. I don't think we need poisons. I do have a copy, if I can leave it with you. I don't know if you have it, but it's the...
Okay, the next speaker is Richard Berman.
There's also a law that these laws that Massachusetts, that these people are supposed to put their names, it's all in here. They're supposed to put all their information on their boxes.
Yeah, if we have additional time at the end of the meeting,
I can
we
tell you.
can ask you to come back again.
5 minutes, yeah, a lot quicker, but
It's 3.
it's in there.
Just want to remind everyone, all the speakers, it's 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Richard Berman. I'm an entomologist. I've spent my entire career involved with the pest management industry in one capacity or another. I'm a public member of the Massachusetts Pesticide Board. This 13-member board makes pesticide public policy, approves regulations, and advises the Department of Agricultural Resources as it administers the Massachusetts Pesticide Control Act. I'm a member of the registration subcommittee as well. I'm not here speaking for or representing the board or the subcommittee. I'm here as an interested and concerned individual. I'm not a resident of Plymouth, by the way. Every pesticide sold and used in the state must be state registered. No products are considered for registration unless first reviewed and registered by the U.S. EPA. Pesticides are registered by EPA as either general use or restricted use. General use pesticides may be sold and used by anyone. Restricted use pesticide products may only be sold and used by persons certified by the state. Massachusetts requires pesticides be registered by the state as well as the federal government. The subcommittee registers pesticides as general use, restricted use, or state restricted use. State restricted use pesticides are registered as general use at the federal level. So products that are general use at the federal level, we can restrict them here in Massachusetts. The registration subcommittee can choose not to register a product or place the restrictions on the pesticide products if the subcommittee deems a product needs more strict controls here. I need my reading glasses. For example, a group of herbicides, which are weed killers, are registered as state restricted use due to bleaching potential and health concerns. In July of 21, a group of neonicotinoid pesticides called neonics pesticides were reclassified as state restricted use as they've been implicated as a contributing factor to honeybee colony collapse disorder. So we have that authority to do that. These two classes of pesticides were not banned. These registration decisions removed those products from over-the-counter sales and allowed continued use only by trained, certified applicators. An important criteria the subcommittee considers when registering pesticides is if the benefits of a product's use outweigh the risk and potential adverse effects on the environment, including people. The SGARs have been registered as general use because they're safer than other products used around people. The last time I checked, the department did not have any significant or notable reports or issues with SGAR use in Massachusetts that would warrant changing the SGAR current registration status. The anticoagulants as a group are significantly less toxic to adults and children than other non-anticoagulant rodent-killing products. That's one of the reasons the anticoagulants are used more often than other products when toxicants are used. With this said, I and many others believe some additional use restrictions may be important, and I've got a copy of the statement for everyone. The registration subcommittee on May 13th received a petition from a Harvard student group studying to be lawyers. Their petition asked the subcommittee to suspend registrations of all anticoagulant or rodenticide products, not just SGARs. The subcommittee meets in July, and we'll probably be taking that up and looking at that.
Kevin Moran, next
Thank
speaker.
you.
Good evening, everybody. Kevin Moran. I'm also an entomologist, graduate of UMass. I've been licensed in Massachusetts for more than 45 years. Teacher, mosquito control, and for the last 35, 40 in the structural pest control management issue. My job now is as a trainer. I'm a consultant and a trainer, principally in New England, but now I travel cross country. And I can tell you the primary issue that people want to hear about is rodent control and rodents. You've heard a lot tonight. In the industry, the structural industry has no issue every time IPM is brought up. That's what we practice. That's what we train on. We talk about exclusion, source reduction. We all know that. The issue is that it is not being done on a local level. And if you move ahead with this, any program like this, what you're doing is limiting the tools. Now, you also heard from the biologist, very interesting, about the alternatives. The alternatives, bromethylin, which she pronounced, and cholecalciferol. The issue as we talk about alternatives to second-generation anticoagulants is, or any anticoagulant, and she admitted there is a treatment. Dogs, non-target animals, there is an antidote for anticoagulant poisoning. There is no antidote to these other alternatives. That you've heard a lot tonight talk about, well, if we remove the rats, then other rats are going to move in. That is a biological fact when we're dealing with mammals. And I don't care whether you remove them via trapping or via poison or via using CO2 in their tunnels. It is a tool that the industry uses. We have tools using carbon monoxide, using now carbon dioxide. At any time that you remove the rats, they will be replaced. That is a biological fact. We're not disputing that. We're not disputing anything that says if you clean up and you do some exclusion and you do source reduction, you're going to remove or reduce rats. Absolutely. We understand that. The principal issue, or one of the principal issues, is the fact that, one, anticoagulants are not banned to the general public. They are still a general use rodenticide, something you heard Ted talk about and Richard talk about.
20 seconds.
And the fact that that's one issue the industry is going for. Just to finish up, I would urge the board not to take away one of the most effective and efficient tools the industry has for rodent control, whether it's on public property or private property. That's the issue tonight. And I thank you for my time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Lisa Nahan-Demule.
Hi, I'm on Zoom.
Yes.
Are you Lisa?
I'm on Zoom, yes.
So, someone's coming up as Lisa, though. I'm looking for
I'm Lisa
Lisa.
Nyan Demule.
Yes, that's what I'm looking for. What is your name? Yeah, you're down the bottom. Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead. She can, okay.
And
so,
do you want me to wait till the end
no,
or can I
Lisa,
start?
actually, just another point of clarification. Lisa did request to speak ahead of time, so she is on my list. She is here via Zoom, so she can go in the order that I did receive her name. So Lisa, you can go ahead with your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you to the board for listening and your time tonight. My name is Lisa Nyan Demule. I am a wildlife rehabber licensed in Massachusetts, and I'm also one of the co-leaders of Save Topsfield Wildlife. I would like to begin. January 2024, Nora, a 4-month-old boxer, dies from ingesting rat poison. March 2024, a Redding family rushes their 2 dogs to the vets after they consume rat poison. These are just 2 cases in the past 5 months that made the news. And this doesn't take into account our veterinarians who treat hundreds of poisons, raptors, foxes, and coyotes, or the wildlife rehabbers in this state who use their own money to treat raptors and many other species who ingest SGARs. Before poisons, rats and humans existed together for centuries. And now that there are poisons, rats and humans will continue to exist together for future centuries. However, our birds of prey and many other scavengers and animals will meet a different fate. In the 60s, DDT put the bald eagles on the list of endangered species, and these days it's SGARs. These animals are doing their jobs, helping to keep us humans disease-free. An average bird of prey can eat 1,000 rats a year, and a larger great horned owl can eat 1,500 rats a year. This is mating and baby season, so a whole family with 2 chicks, 2 parents, it's a lot, thousands. Natural rodent control. That's a lot of rats killed in our environment without adding a single turquoise bait pellet of hazardous waste in the form of SGARs. SGARs are a threat to public health. They impair rodent immune systems in cases where sublethal doses are consumed. Impaired immune cell response provides for increased disease transmission. Pest industry does not collect data on this. SGARs are ineffective on rodents with certain mutations. These rodents don't die, but instead breed, which makes for resistant populations. We're up to 2nd generation anticoagulant, Rodenticides. What's next? A 3rd generation, a 4th generation? This insanity needs to stop. Rodents who have consumed SGARs can take up to 7 days to die. They're more vulnerable to predators who won't pass up an easy meal, but it's dangerous because people, kids, pets are put at high risk if they should run into these animals while they're out, the rats while they're out. And this makes contact disease and parasite transmission even more likely.
20
Studies
seconds.
show that rats with SGARs in their system are more likely to have and transmit diseases like leptospirosis and E. coli. So the New England Aquarium, if the New England Aquarium in Boston can swear off using SGARs in keeping with their motto of protecting the blue planet, I think we can too. Thank you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the speaker list is, I have KG, owner, okay. Sorry, I didn't have your last name.
Good evening. My name is K. Sangale, and I'm the Lobster Hut owner. Thank you for the time. So the restaurant's been there since 1970, and I've been there 25 years as a worker. And I'm now the new owner over there. Yes, it is. So we try to keep our restaurant clean. Everyone, this is what we do. And I had never seen any kind of rats or anything in the building, and I'd like to keep it that way, just to get the business going. And that's also our livelihood. This is what we do. Like, we're there 7 days a week, and we enjoy what we do. And whatever the pesticides company is doing, I think it's working. So I'm not an expert. I'm just sharing my story. This is working for us. I haven't seen anything in there. So that's all I gotta say. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, next speaker is David Flynn. Is David here? He is not. Okay, I'm going to cross him out. Steve Brunstrom. Is Steve here? Nope. Okay, crossing him out. Otherwise, okay. Okay. Then next up would be Rebecca, and I think, is she on? Yeah, Rebecca.
Yeah, hi there. I'm on Zoom, Rebecca Dimitrick.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes, please
Great,
continue. Yep.
thank you so much. Thanks for letting me speak. My name's Rebecca Dimitrick. I'm from California, but don't hold that against me. I run a very profitable pest control company, Humane Wildlife Control, and we specialize in poison-free rodent control. The best way to protect public health is through exclusion, which means blocking the rodents from entering, for example, a building, and sanitation, reducing their food resources. This is widely known. Poisons or other lethal control measures alone, without exclusion and sanitation efforts, is never effective. You kill one, another one takes its place, a never-ending cycle, which benefits the pest control companies that use poison. I want to counter what a previous speaker said, implying that poison is the fastest, most effective, and efficient way to control rodents. It's just not true. Done correctly, exclusion does result in an immediate reduction in rodents. Exclusion stops rodents from entering a building or an area immediately. Again, my company is hugely successful with hundreds of satisfied customers, and we never use poisons or other lethal control measures, but live catch, and we release them outside sometimes with dye on their tails so that we can tell if we have a repeat offender. And this allows the rats and mice to try and get back in. And that's what we want. That's what our customers want, because it is the only way to be able to guarantee my clients a home is rodent-proofed and rodent-free. I think the smartest way to go here is to require folks to do exclusion and sanitation efforts, followed by limited use, temporary use of rodenticides, maybe for 30 days, and only in those extreme cases. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. My next speaker is, there's a spot for, it says restaurant owner. So is there a restaurant owner that had sent an email in? No? Okay. We're going to bypass that. So next up would be Alyssa Plazonia? Oh, here it
Hi, everyone can hear me? Elisa Plazanja. And first of all, thank you to the Board of Health for hosting this forum. I appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation. As someone who is fairly new to Plymouth, so I'm a Plymouth resident, I'm just recently relocated from Boston. I could tell you a thing or two about rats, especially after COVID. Our neighborhood was absolutely inundated with rats, as was my home. We solved the problem without using poison through exclusion. Meanwhile, my neighbors continue to battle rats. So what I would say with all respect to our friends from the pest control industry, is that if second-generation anticoagulants, rodenticide worked, we would not have a rat problem in Boston like we still do, because everyone is using bait traps. I appreciate that rats and rodents are a public health problem, but in using SGARs to try to mitigate rodent infestations, we're killing not only rats, but the very animals in our midst who are the best natural rodent control. Birds and animals of prey, and occasionally, as we heard, pets as well. Hawks, owls, eagles, our national symbol, the bald eagle, we've had 4 killed in Massachusetts through, died of rodenticide poisoning. That is just an embarrassment to our country. There are other means of control that work, that are as effective, but that are not as damaging. Everyone's talked about this. Control the trash. Rodents don't come unless there's something for them to eat. They also don't come unless there's a place for them to nest. exclusion. Birth control, the city of Newton is using birth control, as was our neighborhood piloting studies on birth control. There are smart snap traps. I think the first speaker showed one of them that are an alternative. And I think that Plymouth can be a leader in both public health and in environmental health. The two are not mutually exclusive. So I would urge the town to seriously evaluate the proposal that's been presented by Rescue Plymouth Wildlife, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Dale Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. For the record, my name is Dale Weber, and I am an employee representative and also a resident of Plymouth, and I'm appearing tonight in a little bit of both of those capacities. As it relates to municipal buildings, I represent people that work in those municipal buildings and in those school buildings, probably 55, 60 buildings. The passionate speeches that I've heard tonight here are right on target. I understand where everyone on both sides of this issue are coming. But when my phone rings, it's from members that are absolutely going crazy because they have rats, mice, and other vermin in a workplace where they should not be. And this is a building where we try to raise and teach our 7,000 students here in Plymouth. We feed them all day long in these buildings. Same with buildings like this. Our people come to work and they expect to have an environment free of that type of atmosphere. So what they do is they get me involved, I get the town involved, and I'm one of those people that keeps pestering things until things get done. It's frustrating sometimes, but sometimes people move slow to react, and while that's going on, the population and the infestation is continuing to blossom. So we had a major infestation down in South Plymouth last year, where we had families and families of rats in the ceilings, suspended ceilings like these, living up there, crawling around in there, doing what they do up there, and then meanwhile we had kids right underneath them. So it's always a panic situation when something like this happens, and the time for excursion, I forget the terminology that was used to try to block entry. You cannot block entry to huge schools and municipal buildings quickly. You need to use the pest companies who are licensed, certified professionals. And as to the plan that you might have to replace this type of treatment with pesticides, I have not heard an effective and instantaneously applied Plan B. I, as a resident, can purchase rodenticide online and have it delivered to my home. It's similar to what I do with, and other people in my neighborhood do, with Roundup, weed killer. Municipals have been banned from using Roundup, but you can buy it as a resident, and you can use it. And people, I hate to say it, they have full plates, they're busy, they work several jobs, they don't have the time.
20 seconds.
How much time, Karen?
20.
20, thank you.
Yeah.
They don't have the time necessarily to do a very costly program of boarding up all the entries to your home or your building. So until I hear a viable Plan B that works like the pesticide application works, I'm in favor of urging you not to ban this product until there is a Plan B. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes? You have to come back here. Sorry, Catherine. No one else is going to hear you.
Just because Mr. Weber spoke on the South School and the public infestation of rats, can you speak to that? Because in Precinct 9, I don't want to be called all over the place because our parents are concerned that the school was infested with rats, because Mr. Howard, the principal of the school, did send out public notifications saying that that was a small problem and not to the level that Mr. Weber is stating. So can we just get the Board of Health's position on that? That would be helpful. Thank you.
I don't think the Board of Health can legally do that under the conditions of a public forum. Correct, Karen?
I mean, I can state publicly that that's been taken care of, that was a year ago, and it's been dealt with. So that I can tell people.
We can't do anything about this at this point beyond letting you speak. I don't believe that that point of order applies in this particular case.
Okay, so that finishes the in-person pre-registered speakers. I do have one email that I'm going to read because they did send that in, and then we're going to go to the folks that are online. So this is from Sarah Colton. To whom it may concern, I'm writing to you today to express my support for wildlife and responsible pest management. As I am unable to attend tonight's meeting, I wanted to add my voice for the future of biodiversity in Plymouth and surrounding towns. The highly toxic class of rat poisons, SGARs, that bioaccumulate in the tissues of predators like hawks, owls, eagles, foxes, fishers, and others, including several species protected under the Massachusetts Endangered Species Act, and as a result, these animals succumb to a grisly death and our communities lose their invaluable services of naturally removing hundreds or thousands of rodents annually while feeding themselves and their young. I sincerely hope that the Board of Health in Plymouth will recommend restrictions on the use of these dangerous poisons. We have an obligation to do all we can to protect our wildlife and environment, especially as their natural habitats are ever shrinking. So that's the email. So now we're going to.
I emailed you last week and asked if you were placed on the list.
Oh, I'm sorry. And your name is?
Diane Stillman?
Okay, why don't you come up? I don't have that, but let's come on up.
I'm so sorry, it didn't bounce back, but who knows with electronics. My name is Diane Stillman. I live in the town of Plymouth. I am associated with Rescue Plymouth Wildlife, and professionally, I'm a nurse practitioner, and for many years, I managed the Court Street Animal Hospital in Plymouth. I am here because I am very concerned about the risks of the SGAR rodenticides. I am going to actually change my remarks slightly because I don't want to belabor points people have already made. So I'll just stick to things that are additional. I got interested in this years ago due to animals coming into our animal hospital with rodenticide poisoning. Fortunately, the animals usually could be saved with vitamin K, which is good, but generally it was stressful for the person, harmful for the animal, and if it had to go to the emergency hospital, the cost could be in the thousands. Then my daughter, who's a veterinary student, started working at Cape Wildlife and then started seeing the effects of the SGAR rodenticides in animals that came in there. Lastly, as a nurse practitioner, of course, I looked into rodenticide poisoning in people, and as has already been pointed out, other rodenticides are also toxic to people, but it is a problem that we use rodenticide versus mechanical measures because there's thousands of cases still of rodenticide poisonings that go to the poison control centers every year. Rodents do carry disease, and I think we all agree with that. And I know that the pest care professionals are also trying to address the fact that they cause disease. But whether SGARs are our most effective tool really is still an open question in my mind. There is evidence, scientific studies have shown, as people said, that it increases the pathogen load to use these substances. Also, while evidence shows that it kills them effectively, that whether or not it is the fastest, most effective way to decrease an infestation is a harder thing to say. And while you may kill the animals quickly, if you don't do exclusion, they're just going to come back in. So I think for the public health, you really need to do the risks against humans and wildlife versus the benefits of these SGAR poisons.
Thank you.
Actually, we have to go to the folks online.
After the folks are online or are given time.
Yep.
We have time left, we'll get back to you.
Someone is asking me to speak. Okay, so if anyone online would like to speak, and I know a couple of you are trying to text me to say that you'd like to speak, you need to raise your little hand on your computer. So, Charlie, do you want to? Oh, you are? Yeah, definitely. Come on up. You are on the list. So while Mr. Bletzer is speaking, if we could just, if anyone online would like to speak on Zoom, please raise your hand and we'll be calling on that group next. But Mr. Bletzer is on the list and he's approaching the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, and I want to thank the board for this hearing tonight. I appreciate it. The last meeting, I thought you did a great job. I was there and keeping everything civil, because I know a lot of people's livelihoods depend on your decisions on this. I'm impressed with the people that are in this room. Some people aren't from Plymouth, but their expertise and their intelligence, the PhDs, the biologists, the chemists. I'm none of those. I'm just a select board member. I don't represent the select board. I want to make that very clear. But I do represent a lot of the restaurants. I'm very close with a lot of the restaurants and businesses in this town. And I've had conversations with them. I've spoken to East Bay Grill, Paul Barbado, Cabby Brini from Cabby Shack, Jimmy from Anna's Harborside, Peter from the Tavern, the Shanty, they have Proof 22, Dylan's Local, and tonight, Kaysan Gale was here from Lobster Hut, and Papa's Pizza, and as well as Kakadi's, one of the managers. I think he had to leave, because unfortunately, the restaurant people are so busy, a lot of them can't come here tonight. So that's why I talked to them ahead of time to just get their feel. I want to tell you the business side of this decision. First of all, Plymouth is a tourist town. We're a tourist town. We depend on tourism. And I want to be real clear. We do not have a rat problem. I don't want this to get out that there's a rat problem in Plymouth. And the only reason why we don't have rat infestation down in our waterfront is because of the effective plans that the Board of Health has put in place in the pesticide companies that everybody has to have. They have to have a plan. It's because of the work that they do. And again, these are the experts in my eyes. I just mentioned this, he's from Papa's and from Katie's. But we have the expert people that we hire. We're not chemists, I should say we. They're not chemists, they're not scientists, they're restaurateurs. So they have experts that their job is to keep the rats out of their facilities. They also adhere to the plan by cleanliness. I can speak of several restaurants that I know personally that power wash their dumpster areas. I know East Bay Grill, I can tell you they have their dumpster emptied 7 days a week because they're busy and they have to have, so every day the trash is gone, that's very helpful. But if this plan, if they change the plan, it's going to be a cost to it, okay? And the cost, right now, the restaurants who depend on tourism, so they need to stay with what we're doing because it works. But there will be a cost added to it. And the restaurants, contrary to what people think when you buy a $50 meal, they think it's all profit. It's a real short margin. And with the increase in food and beverage, labor, utilities, insurance, and taxes for those restaurants, to add pest control increases will be a hindrance to their profits. So that's where they're coming from on that. Okay. Anyway, I guess that's, I just want to say that I think your decision tonight, you really got to weigh in how it will affect the businesses. Last thing I'll say is when you talk about town property, this is about town property. A lot of those waterfront restaurants are on town land, and so they're considered town property. But this will affect, if it passes here, if they change it, it's going to affect private. It'll go private. So it's not going to just be public. Keep that in mind, everybody out there, because if they do it for the town, it's going to be the whole town, all the residents, so it's going to be costly for you. So anyway, I urge you to support the businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Just to clarify, there is no decision being made tonight.
No, I know
That will be
Yep.
done sometime at a subsequent meeting of the Board
The
of
other
Health.
thing from the town side, could I clarify something Dale brought up? That problem in South Elementary was taken care of. That problem was solved, and I'm going to tell you, it was solved because of the great work of the Board of Health, the DPW, and the pest control companies that were involved. That problem has been solved. So,
Okay.
and,
Thank you, Charlie.
Okay, thanks.
So we're going to go to our Zoom folks, and the first person to speak will be David Golden.
Thanks, Karen. I appreciate you folks hosting this forum here tonight. I apologize that I was not able to be here in person. As you might be able to tell from the sound of my voice, illness has struck in the Golden House. So out of an abundance of caution, I decided to be remote here tonight. My name is David Golden. I'm a former member of the Board of Health. And like Mr. Bletzer, I am also a select board member. I am also not here in my capacity as a select board member, but instead as a concerned resident. I live in Manomet in Precinct 7, and I'm worried that the Board of Health implementing a ban on SGARs on town-owned property will not only be detrimental to public health, it will also open the door towards a limitation on private property in the future as well. In the last meeting that I sat in on as a Board of Health member, the proponents of this ban mentioned that they had intentions to file special legislation with the general court in Massachusetts in order to allow Plymouth to ban the use of SGARs on private property. So I think this could have a cascading effect that could affect not just the businesses, but also the residents of this town. The fact of the matter is that this is a question of environmental health. And an earlier speaker said that the two aren't mutually exclusive, but in this case, I believe they are. The proponents of this measure have talked about the number of pets and other animals, wild animals that have been affected by this. By their own admission, there are no confirmed cases in the town of Plymouth of secondary poisoning, either for domesticated or wild animals. Over the course of a 3-year period, there were only 8 birds of prey that had suspected secondary poisoning. And over an 11-year period, over a 13-year period, there were only 11 pets that had, all of them dogs, who were suspected to have secondary poisoning in the town of Plymouth. So, I think that the Board of Health has to take into account whether their primary charge is for human health or animal health. I would postulate that human health is the more important consideration for the Board of Health to have. I urge you folks to vote against the limitation of SGARs. We cannot take a tool out of our toolbox in order to quickly and effectively manage rodent populations. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Your empty chair is next to me, and we dearly miss you on the Board of Health.
And I you.
Is there anyone else?
So that concludes everyone who has reached out prior to tonight's meeting to speak. So at this point, if the board so chooses, we do have about 23 minutes left, well, a little bit more than that. I'm sorry, I thought it was 8 o'clock. It's actually 8:30 they were done. So we do have time if the board wants to entertain folks who might want to speak from the audience.
Okay, just one brief announcement about this. We are going to, if anybody who's online wishes to speak, and you decide you want to while we're entertaining other speakers, down at the bottom of the Zoom, you'll see a little thing that says raise hand. That is the only way we can tell if you wish to speak, if you're online. So if you just click on that, we'll see an orange hand come up on the screen, and you will be recognized. In the absence of anyone who wishes to do that, anyone who previously spoke but was not able to finish their comments are welcome to come back to the podium.
So first, I just wanted to, some gentleman said that I said injectable vitamin K was a cure. It's not a cure. What I was saying is it barely ever works. And the other 2 poisonings I was pointing out, those aren't alternatives. They're almost
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So I'm sorry, so injectable vitamin K, I said we use it, but it is not a cure. It hardly ever works. Those other two poisons that are on the market, the bromethylene and the one I can't pronounce, those are just as bad. The CO2 pumps, there are actually companies that come in and they use the CO2 and they pump into the holes. What I was going to say about the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Pesticide Board Law 33 CMR, it states that all contracting entities have to tag all of their contraptions on residential and non-residential property with their name, license, certification number, and applicator, the names and EPA registration numbers of the pesticide products that were applied to the property, for what purpose, any precautions indicated on the label relative to post-application requirements, and the date and time of the application. We ask that Plymouth enforce this state law. There are other laws that need to be examined by the town that I gave to you and enforced, such as the MDR needs to be informed in written statement when such products are being used, and there are rules about them not being able to apply them 100 feet from schools or protected areas as they are defined, except under certain circumstances. I asked the town of Plymouth to enforce better restrictions on the usage of rodenticides. As detailed in the Harvard petition to the MDAR, we ask that you immediately suspend the registration's use of anticoagulant products in the town by contracting entities, a moratorium, such as they have in California, until the state takes another look at this environmental impact of these products. It's not a permanent solution, but a step in the right direction, and it's always going to be a continued problem. But I think just for now, to take a step back until we can examine it. And I do think that the CO2 with the pumps is, I killed 40 rats 2 days ago. I still have some, and you're always going to have some.
Okay, thank you. You wish to speak again? And then gentleman down in the back, you'll be next. Okay.
So just from listening to everybody that spoke, there's definitely a lot of misinformation. I would encourage the board to do some research and homework on their own to try to identify some of that. One thing that popped out to me is the labeling of stations. That is an indoor use requirement. And again, that would be for listing out the product, everything that the previous speaker said. I, as a company, took it a step further and said, I'm going to do that on the external. By doing that, my business was met with significant negative reviews, negative feedback, attacks on me, my family, saying that I don't care about children, I don't care about pets in Plymouth. I took that initiative to go beyond the state requirements of indoor and apply it to outdoor. My name is now all over Rescue Plymouth's wildlife website and social media attacking my business. So I took the step to go back to following state law.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, in the back.
Thank you. Just a point of order and a clarification. We don't have too much content on our website. Your name isn't on any of those pages. Not one. Also, I'd like to get some color on from either Mr. Weber or the Board of Health as to what actually happened to solve the problem at Plymouth South Elementary School. I hear that it's been solved. I want to know how. And I'd also like to know what conditions allowed that infestation to occur in the first place. Thank you.
So I'm on Rescue Plymouth's Wildlife right now, and you have a picture of my company and my label that was on an external station. Pilgrim Pest Professionals with my phone number, 508-208-3864, with the products that are in that station. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone else? Okay.
Someone left the phone up here, it's not mine. Dale Weber again, in response to the inquiry as to what happened at South Elementary. I'll just give you the 35,000-foot view. There was a major infestation down there. I was aware of the memos that went out. The memos didn't, in my opinion, accurately reflect the infestation. But the reason that it happened was because Plymouth has, South Elementary School does not have a basement. And it has access under the building that is secured by plywood around the foundation and other screening type issues that were built in the construction of that building, which is going on 40 years now. There were 3 other satellite buildings, Federal Furnace School, West School, and there's one more out there that were Federal Furnace. They're all built the same construction, same way. The simple answer as to how the issue was solved, it was through pesticide application, and there was some level of methods to stop infiltration, but I don't believe that those were total mitigation of the issue, and I believe you're going to see that without the stepped-up contractual relationship that the school has entered into with the pesticide firm, it would not be successful. So they work together, and like I said, with the buildings as large as the town buildings that you're discussing initially here, you're looking at a huge capital expense to retrofit buildings to prevent infiltration of these critters that are smart and they are cunning and they can fit into places that you wouldn't believe. So it's a hugely expensive item. And like I say, people have full plates. They have other purposes, such as school buildings, are there to educate kids, not to eradicate vermin. But the bottom line is it's been addressed, and hopefully at that school, the continued contractual relationship with professional, certified, and licensed people is going to handle the issue. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to also add something to the discussion of this. I was in contact with the State Department of Agriculture today for quite some time. We did check on the integrated pest management plans that had been filed with the state, and every one of the schools in Plymouth has done so. I don't know what's in those because I haven't had time to look through them yet, but all the schools do have a plan to deal with pests and eliminating them from, or trying to control them in their properties. Somebody over here, I think, was next. I'm trying to keep track of who in the audience is in what order, but if you want to make this easier, if you want to speak again, if you would just come up and just stand near the podium, it might make it a little easier.
I just want to make something clear. We hear a lot of talk about exclusion today and people taking care of their rodent issues just by exclusion alone. It can't happen. It does happen. We've done it. That's our first attempt. Whenever I go out to someone's house that has or business that has a rodent issue, I'm looking for entry points. That's the thing. If you can exclude them, keep them out, they're going to be out. And if we can do that, that's what I want to do. Somebody insinuated that we don't want to do that because we want to keep applying our products. We want to keep going. That's not the case at all. I don't get paid for my product. I get paid for my time and my expertise and my knowledge. The product is the lowest portion of that. If I can go to someone's house and take care of their rodent problem in one visit, I'll walk out of there like a proud peacock with my feathers flailing. I'm happy to do that. There's no better advertisement than a customer saying, my pest control company came out here, took care of it in one day. I would love that because they're going to tell everybody. Rather than saying, my pest control company's been coming out here for months or years and I still have a rodent problem. That's not good advertisement. So no company wants to continue going to someone's house and treating over and over for the same problem. That's not the goal. And I take it personal. It's kind of offensive because I take what I do personal. I'm a person of integrity. I help people. I'm proud of what I do. I love to go to someone's house, take care of their problem, and know that they're okay. That's what I do. So for someone to say it's just the bottom line, it couldn't be further than the truth. That's not how I operate, at least, and I know a lot of my colleagues don't either. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Just real quick to answer one of Will's questions about how the South Elementary School was handled. It was handled with an all-inclusive approach. It did include exclusion. It did include rodenticide. It did include an increase in the pest management plan for that particular building. Available via a Freedom of Information Act request that I pulled, and anybody else can pull. Happy to share it with you to avoid the town having to resend it to everybody. The cost to do just the exclusion on that school was $9,600. That did not include all of the other pieces in the increased pest management plan. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, please.
Mr. Chairman, Kevin Moran again. I was just asking Joanne for a name because she's got a lot of information as a biologist, and it's wonderful because I was glad to hear her say, talk about the alternatives, because as you've been pushed all along, we're talking about anticoagulants. There are alternatives, and you even heard her say, they're just as dangerous. And we had just a recent incident in Boston with the rodenticide. It was not an anticoagulant. And that pet owner had within 24 hours to do something. That's the issue. At least with these anticoagulants, we do have these antidotes. How effective they are, I know from experience, they're very effective on dogs, cats. How effective they are on smaller mammals, we're not sure, but there is an antidote. These alternatives that people talk about, they are not. When I do my training nationwide and people say, well, Kevin, what are the alternatives? I tell them, if you are going to go with bromethylene or co-calcium, these are just names, you'll see them from MDAR, please label your station. Please let the customer know and let the veterinarian, so the veterinarian knows we are not dealing with an anticoagulant, because now we do not have time. Within 24 hours, that dog will be dead from these alternatives. So this is why when I say they're effective, they are the most effective and efficient tool we have today. Are they the best? Exclusion, as I said before, there's no question about that. But that's costly and it takes time. When we are dealing with a major rodent issue, you have to look at the tools. And all my point is, please really consider removing tools from the industry as we move forward with CO2, with carbon monoxide, pumping carbon monoxide into burrows. Very effective, no question about it. No question on exclusion. No question on sanitation. That's all IPM. But as soon as people start saying, well, we have alternatives, be very careful when you look at the alternatives. There's a reason the industry is still using anticoagulant rodenticides. Effective and efficient. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Next, please.
My name's Tom Berry. I'm a resident of Plymouth, and my question is for the gentleman who works for the town. What time of year did you eradicate the rat infestation in South Plymouth, and how long did it take? So was it after school was out? The kids were there when you guys were putting the poison out? School was closed, so.
Yeah.
So if the school was closed.
No one can hear you when you speak in the audience.
All right.
So you,
If the school-
you have to sort of share the podium.
Sure. If the school was closed and there was no food source at the school because they eliminate all the food when the school's closed, then the rats don't have a food source and they leave, right? Just common sense to me.
Just to
In
clarify.
response to that question,
Yeah, the school was closed. What time of year was it? The school was closed, it was a vacation, and they went in and did it while
Yeah.
the school was closed.
And to the last speaker's point, I'll put my Director of Public Health hat on for a moment, because it's important to note that even though the food might have been removed, what Mr. Weber had already mentioned to folks in the audience was that there's no basement in those buildings. So the rats made their home underneath the building. So the food source was part of the problem, but it wasn't the only problem. And so I think that even though the food may not have been present, there was still an issue with the rats staying in the location.
thank you, Karen. Charlie, unless you have something else, we'll bring up the next
Yeah,
person.
I'm just trying to get, I get the article here. It was in the winter, I think it was the January, and they kept the kid, it might have been the long weekend, but I know the kids weren't in the school and they did the remediation or the
Okay.
mitigation, so.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is John Thomas. I'm a local business owner. I happen to use one of the companies here tonight, Pilgrim Pest. I am among the youngest members of tonight's forum. I've worked in restaurants and quick service establishments for about 10 years now. Exclusion and prevention are certainly things that are done even in, very busy restaurants that are even well-maintained. I'm proud to say that I've worked in restaurants that have never failed a health inspection. My local business right now, Sweet Frog, has not failed a single health inspection that we have had. We have had plenty of them. But pests can still get in, even with all the prevention and exclusion you want to have. Pests exist as sort of a unstoppable force in the nature community. That is why they're labeled pests, rodents among them. It's just to take, as many of them have said so far, a tool out of the belt is just, it's not smart, especially when there's not something put in place to replace that. So until something can be made to replace the anticoagulants, it seems quite honestly not smart to just remove that from the process. One of the speakers against it said something about how we're on a second generation and how that's, madness. We're on second generation antibiotics for human health. Are we meant to stop making new biotics to fight disease because we're on another generation? It's not smart, and in the whole of human history, rodents are among the deadliest in terms of pest carriers. You can look at incidents of the Black Plague in Europe, even when new diseases were brought to the Americas in the 1600s. One of the reasons they spread was from the rats that came over on the ships and other pests that came on the ships from the old world to the new world. So to simply remove an effective and necessary measure to prevent these kinds of diseases and infestations from spreading without offering a replacement, it just seems, from a common sense standpoint, it just seems not smart. Obviously, there's ecological concerns, but other smarter members have said that there's not very many cases. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, yes, that's what I'm actually coming to answer, is the statement that there aren't many cases. We've been asked to provide information on precisely what the impact of Plymouth is, and that is problematic. It's difficult to do. We don't have access because of human medical records to whether there's anything at Jordan, although as a nurse practitioner, I fully admit it's unlikely we have a large number of child poisonings, thank God, here. So I'm not saying that I do, but I don't have that information. Veterinary medical records, I can testify, we tried to do ours. That's the few numbers that you have from Court Street. It's profoundly difficult. Human medical records are searchable by a diagnosis. You can search in there anticoagulant poisoning, bam, you got the records. As a nurse practitioner, that's wonderful. That's because they're designed for billing, so you need a diagnosis. In order to try to get the numbers, we had a technician just combing through records, so it's not efficient. My husband, and I'm sure other veterinarians will testify that they see a few, 2-3 cases every year, each veterinarian. It's not rare. You can ask the veterinarians, but can I give you hard data? Probably not good data that I would feel like I could hand to you and say this is correct, which is what I'd want to do. We do know, however, that we also not only have the word of the veterinarians, but the rehabbers, and as my daughter works with the veterinarians locally, the wildlife veterinarians, they see the poisoning. And to the point that it's not confirmed poisoning. For confirmed poisoning, you have to have an animal that is dead, that you can remove the liver and mail to Texas. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes you save the animal. And if you save it from with vitamin K, then it is probably an anticoagulant poisoning. If the animal is bleeding out, it is probably an anticoagulant poisoning. The case is true that we can't prove it, but we know it's there, and there is evidence from very similar communities, like Tufts finding 100% of its red-tailed hawks that came in for any reason having rodenticide poisoning. The recent study that showed that their fishers had a high percentage of rodenticide poisoning. There's a new study out with snowy owls with a greatly increased risk of rodenticide poisoning. These are the same animals we have here. And one other point to just answer is to the we don't have endangered species, maybe not federally, but we do have state-listed species of concern and threatened species in Plymouth, including the bald eagle and the peregrine falcon, and several owl species that are listed state species that are threatened. Thank you.
Next, please.
Jim Foran, I live in Carver. I don't have any answers to any of the issues that were brought up. In fact, I think they're all very interesting. The one thing I'd like to ask is, what is a city like Boston doing? Are they going to ban rodenticide in Boston? Second question, if we do ban the rodenticides here in Plymouth, whether it's on public land, private land, I don't know, is Plymouth prepared for the lawsuits from neighboring towns that get infested that never had infestations? The third point I want to bring up is, I've been doing pest control for 3 months now, and we use habitat traps to get various animals eliminated from a person's property. We trap them. Do you know what the state law says about that trapped animal? You cannot release it anywhere. You must kill it. So all these animal rights activists, believe me, I know where you're coming from, but are you concerned about all the raccoons, possums, skunks that are getting eliminated? In a habitat trap. Habitat, we take it and we kill it before we get them out of the cage. But let's ban rodenticide. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name's Megan Champagne. I'm a property manager here in Plymouth. I manage over 200 apartments, many of which are affordable, and a couple condo associations. I'm just looking for more of an understanding on cost difference, timeline, how quick do we see results, just more of the logistics. I'm sure my own pest control company could give me an answer on that, but just a clear understanding, what is the difference of using the rodenticide in the alternatives?
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Next speaker.
Elisa Plazanja again. So I think that there are shared interests here. I think everyone in this room wants to have a viable means of rodent control. I don't think anybody wants someone to suffer through rodent infestation. And as I said earlier, as someone who has done that, I wouldn't wish it on anybody. However, there's a lot of slippery slope arguments here. There is nothing that is that someone else may try to advance some type of special exemption for pest control, for SGARs to be banned from private use is completely independent of the decision that the Board of Health makes today. Those two things are not related. Also, for all the speculation about what might happen if Plymouth did that with neighboring towns suing you, or the rats just kind of overtaking everything, you can look to other towns in Massachusetts that have already done this. Lexington, Arlington, Newbury. The town of Brookline does not use, even though they haven't banned it, they do not use SGARs on any of their public property. So this isn't something novel. This is something that other towns and cities in Massachusetts are already doing, and I would urge you to contact your colleagues in those towns to see what their experience has been, and then you would have actual comparable data to see what the impact of this decision would be.
Thank you. Next.
My last time up here, I promise. I just wanted to say real quick, the Stillmans, one of the best animal hospitals in Plymouth, really sad that they are not running that hospital, and I hope they reconsider that. One of my first jobs was working for Norm and Diane at Court Street Animal Hospital, and loved every second of it. I just wanted to speak real quick to the populations of wildlife and specifically here in Plymouth. So SGARs have been on the market for more than 54 years. It's not a new product. It's been used for that entire time. Just in the last decade in Plymouth, while SGAR use has been used throughout the state and throughout the country, our bald eagle population has risen and grown. I believe the count on confirmed bald eagle nests is 4 in the town of Plymouth. I'm thankful to have one right down the street from my house where I can go walk and check it out. So those populations are growing right alongside the use of rodenticide. Earlier, somebody had mentioned a bald eagle that had died, or 4 confirmed cases of bald eagle deaths. One of those cases actually had bird flu and had rodenticide at the same time. So there's a lot of, as Diane kind of alluded to, there's a lot of data that we'd all love to have that is very conflicting. It's not cut and dry. And yeah, just speaking to the populations of wildlife here in Plymouth, you can just look outside. The numbers continue to grow and expand right alongside that 54 years use of SGARs.
Thank you. One final speaker, please come forward.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name's Wendy Hayward. I live in Duxbury, and I am a terrified public speaker, so I'm here just because I do hear a lot of kind of pros and cons and pluses and minuses, and there's a fantastic study that just came out from the Harvard Law School Animal Law and Policy Clinic on May 13th, and it's a petition to suspend the registrations of anticoagulant rodenticide products in Massachusetts. So this is from the Harvard Law School Animal Law and Policy Clinic. It gives very compelling reasons on banning SGARs, and it's got a lot of facts and information, which I'm not going to even try to delineate here, but if you're interested, you can read the study for a lot of facts and figures. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? We still have maybe 20 minutes. Oh, Elaine Abrams? Elaine, can you hear us? You have an electronic hand that's come up.
Oh, not me.
No?
No.
No hands up. Yeah, there is a hand there, but it's not yellow, so maybe it's the wrong thing. So be assured that we take this and all of our responsibilities to protect human health in the town of Plymouth extremely seriously. We will gather as much information as we possibly can, and we will discuss it very, very thoroughly and try to come up with a solution that will provide the most protection for public health in Plymouth, which is going to be the most effective way to do it. It probably won't be something that any one group on one side or the other is going to say is what they were hoping for, but we also have to conform to state law. And there's a variety of state laws here. We're also going to have to consult the town council to make sure that we're within the limits of what the Board of Health can actually do in situations like this. So we are working for you. We are trying to find solutions, and when necessary, we try to find sort of compromise solutions to get at these problems and to affect, in a positive way, the protection that we've all sworn to protect of the health of the people of Plymouth. So thank you all for coming. I have to ask at the end of this public forum, which I believe is now over, for a member of the Board of Health to make a motion to close the public forum.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, I will simply call the roll of the members who are present. Lorenzo, yes or no?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Dr. Reed?
Yes.
Myself, yes. This public forum is officially closed. Thank you all for coming.